This is a pretty rockin' song. Anyway, welcome back to Analogue, a hate story. And the hooks are in. Apparently, Hyune is a murderer. Let's find out why. Gotcha. You want to hear about the Smith family? Oh yeah, you're going to love this. Those people had problems like you would not believe. Technically, I belong to the Ryu family, but, well, I spent a lot of time keeping up on the Smith family's gossip. They used to be the most important noble house, above even the Kims, you know? So I know a lot about them. What sort of things do you want to hear about? The general history, I suppose. Oh sure, it's all very fascinating stuff. Problem is, somebody encrypted it all in such a way that I can't actually access it all. No way I can. Captain's orders, and unfortunately, I'm literally incapable of disobeying. But if you had admin access, you can get to them yourself. Just type decrypt block 3 from the console, and that'll open it all up. I think I do have admin access, so I'm going to do just that. Yay. Alright, Mute, what do you have to say? Okay, looks like you gotten the decryption sorted out. Great. I can, in fact, see everything in that block now. Where did you even get admin access from, anyway? Well, none of you family is supposed to have that, and it's not like Hyune could tell an unauthorized person. Weird. Utterly weird. Well, anyway, I've got them. So here you have it, the sorted sealed files of the Smith family. Well, let's go. Brought home. These past few months have left me so very anxious with anticipation. Nearly a year has passed since the wedding ceremony, and before this week, Songmin had only visited my family once, promising he would bring me home with him for sure the next time. I know I'm supposed to be enjoying living with my parents while it lasts, but all I can think about is my husband. How is the new bride expected to have such patience? For nearly a year, a day hasn't gone by where I haven't thought of how beautiful he thought me in my wedding dress, or how it felt spending that night held so gently in his strong hands. Looking forward to the day where I could live in his house, I can't help but feel as anxious in my heart as I'm excited in my hips. Dang, girl. I know, it is ungraceful to think of such things, but how can I help myself? In any event, he arrived yesterday to take me with him to his ancestral shrine, and then finally his home. Such luxury I've never seen in my life. A servant to prepare meals, entirely separate women's quarters, and a dining room with a window that shows the stars. My family is hardly all that poor, but a window to the stars? How amazing a sight! I knew that I was lucky to have been married into a noble family, but I never realized just how lucky. I wonder if I'll have time to write as much as I used to. Oh, but I must stop for tonight now. I can hear my husband coming. I've been looking forward to this night for so long now. How I hope I can make him happy. Just hearing his footsteps outside the door makes my heart pound. How long were you writing that while you heard his footsteps outside the door? Or was he marching in place? That's actually from before I knew her. It's pretty hard to imagine her as a blushing newlywed, honestly. She was an awfully good friend of mine. We chatted a lot. You have to understand, though, she might not have been a very good wife. It's absolutely not her fault. It's like what I reported to my mistress, Ryu Jaehwa. None of the problems in her marriage were her own fault. She was just the wife of a lousy man, plain and simple. Mostly, she tried to do the best she could. She was a really great woman, so please don't look down on her, okay? Why would I do that? I cannot believe just 2 years ago I was actually excited about moving into the Smith home with my husband. Oh, how shortly that lasted. I find it funny. The first time I realized that I would have to compete for his affections with every common woman and every courtesan he came across, I was so shocked. The first time he brought one home, I cried for a week. My mother-in-law was furious with me, claiming it my fault for not being enough for him. Now I realize the insanity of her reasoning, as if she wouldn't have already known her son was simply that sort of man. The only person who had any right to be shocked was me. Still, I struggle for his attention, but now, it is all but banal. If the truth is to be told, this is something I would not tell mother-in-law, nor Mute, nor least of all my husband. I do not even fight for his affections for his own sake. It is pure selfishness on my part. All I wish is for some indicator that it isn't as though I'm unattractive, that it isn't as though I'm unlikable. Any affection he gets is simply an attempt fishing that affirmation out of him, and nothing more. Ouch. For the past 2 months, ever since it became impossible to hide that she was with child, Jongmi has been living in our house, and no visitors have been allowed to come in. It has created an incredibly awkward state of affairs. I can hardly stand to be in the same room with that courtesan, let alone live with her. Until recently, so few words have we exchanged, I did not even know her name until the 3rd week of her living here. My husband made me agree to go along with the fiction that the child is actually mine, which, well, I've yet to give him one myself, so if that is how I'm to make up for it, then that is what I'll do. I thought it was going to be so hard to keep up that pretense, to pretend that this child is my own while the real mother lives under the same roof, yet apparently not. As it turns out, the whole charade has been absolutely nothing. After all, the child turned out to be a girl. Of course, I'm sure Jongmi is quite happy since she's already been bought out, in the hopes that we could pretend her son was mine. But an illegitimate daughter? Well, who cares? That is fucked up. That is straight fucked up. It would almost be funny, if not for the fact that it means I will have to live with that constant reminder of how little my husband cares for me. Almost, but not really. Ow, everything's just stinging. High Magistrate Smith Song-min, huh? Well, as High Magistrate, he is one of the highest ranking officials until just before the end. I don't want to paint a misleading portrait. As I understand, he was a very just man, and he performed his function quite well. It was politics that caught up to him in the end. It's like I reported to my Mr. Ryu Jawa. He might have been a good magistrate, but his family conduct was less than the pinnacle of virtue. How many wives a man takes is no business but his own, and he never did anything illegal, but locking up courtesans owned by the court? Man, that's just bad politics. So that's why he lost his position. Years of embarrassment in the family finally culminated in him turning into a real liability for the emperor. But it wasn't always like that. Here, let me try to paint an even portrait of him for you. I've added an assortment of logs about him. I hope this gives a good idea of what I mean. Oh yeah. Proper damn gentleman. A transcription fragment of a conversation held with Smith Sung-jun. Oh, that was how I knew she had gotten serious. He actually agreed to let me pick the drinking house we went to. My oldest brother only ever My oldest brother only ever humors me when he's really trying to get on my good side. It's never a good sign. Well, I mean, it's good for me, but certainly not for him. I'm sure a classy lady such as yourself wouldn't be familiar with this kind of place. No, you know the sort. Tucked away in an interior deck, lots of wood furniture that's been stained, and not intentionally, with just enough commoners milling about to give a good background soundtrack. Oh, and it's run by a woman. Nice lady, too. So, it's that sort of place. We arranged to meet up at the door. It's been a while, brother. I'm sorry I couldn't speak to you sooner, he said, trying to be polite. You're full of shit, I said. But hey, it's good to see you, so what do you want? I meant it, he said. He's a bad liar. So I hear, anyway. At that point, the owner came by, asking what we'd like. The only real thing you need to know about Janae is that she's around my age, and she's got the biggest tits I've ever seen in my life, and she dresses like a commoner, so you can certainly see them. Oh, he said. Fair enough. Bring your finest soju, I ordered, please. She responded, you can't afford our finest. Totally not true, by the way. My reputation for being a cheap drunk? Completely unfounded. Honest, I have no idea where people get these crazy ideas from. Anyway, far be it from me to argue. I just reply, maybe not, but my brother can. I mean, I knew he was going to ask me for money. That was obvious. Might as well get as much as I could out of him before giving whatever he wanted, right? Fine, we'll be sharing that, he said. Then he added, but how much to share it with you too? She blushed. Amazing, really. She's got a lot of practice dealing with people like my brother. But I saved her the misery of having to flirt back with him. Do you really need more of that kind of trouble right now? With that, he let her go. Anyway, drinks came. We argued about the loose definition of finest, our service tits, in the good old days, when Father was still alive and we didn't have to work out our problems ourselves. The biggest bullshit ever, I said. Is that we're expected to be responsible men here? How'd that happen? He laughed, and was now drunk enough to start taking cheap shots. Is that why you've never bothered to be one? Ouch, I said. Damn it, hurry up and pour me more. I'll drink to that. He poured, but didn't say anything. Alright, so what is it that you want? I'm getting the impression that you have a problem, and you want discretion, because you're talking to me. Right, brother? I was right. So what did you put it this time, brother? I asked. But what? He replied. Oh, cut the shit, I said. We both know full well that all your problems in life have always, without fail, stemmed from you putting your dick somewhere you shouldn't have. He grunted in disagreement, but it's totally true. Was it at least a female this time? Swear to my father, brother is just about to punch me in the face. Didn't though. Instead he just downed his drink. Yeah, that's a damn problem, he said. She's saying she hasn't bled in 2 months now. A cortisone. I promised him I'd help. Better she gets bought out by me than by my brother, the high magistrate. Less suspicious that way, and involves nothing unlawful. Believe me now? A proper damn gentleman, that's me. Well, this is what I told him at the time. Could have maybe, done without the description of her breasts. But that kind of story is definitely pretty common for him. The part where he cleaned up after his family's mess, I mean, not the details about immoral-looking common women. And, well, the drinking too. But look, that part, he had a good cause for. Sure, it was his ruin, but you can't blame him for that. I mean, the stuff he had put up with, if you'd had it like that, I'm sure you'd do the same. It wasn't all bad, really. We'd spend a lot of evenings drinking together, talking long into the night. Well, he would anyway. Obviously not really so much drinking on my part. I was wondering about that. Thanks for the clarification. But he was the kind of man who'd still pour a glass for you all the same. So that whole sarcastic thing about him being a proper gentleman? It's not sarcastic. He really was. Well, he was being sarcastic, but still. He totally, absolutely was the best damn gentleman around. Oh, well, that's nice. Uncle Daiho. Look, I'm sorry about our last conversation, alright? It's like I said to you before, you just caught me at a really bad time. Sojin was kept in bed rest on strict doctor's orders. I'm sorry that you brought your wife all the way to get turned away like that. When I told Sojin that you had given her well wishes on her pregnancy, she was happy, but sad she couldn't see you herself. Our child was born last week. A daughter, we decided to name her Minhee. And Sojin is recovering well. The doctor said that it would be fine for her to see visitors next week. I'm sorry I got angry. If your wife still wants to see mine, or the child, or my mother, by all means you're welcome to visit. I really hope there's no hard feelings, Uncle. Sangmin. To the wife of Songkyo. You can probably put this more diplomatically than I can, because I'm pretty sure younger brother is still thoroughly pissed off with me. At me. You know how he is, of course. I don't have the time to deal with that, especially when I'm already doing him a huge favor. The bad news is, I made an appeal to the captain and emperor himself personally, but he said there was no position that a man of Songkyo's skill set could possibly fulfill. I did most certainly plead, but let's face it, what official role could that man possibly fill? He's an idiot. Don't pass on that last part, he already knows. I did, however, speak to the park's son, and was able to convince him to forget the whole incident. It wasn't cheap, I might add. I'll continue to send your family a regular stipend, but please, keep your husband under control. I can afford to keep cleaning up after his damned fights. I know it sounds like Sangmin is just being harsh on his little brother, but I assure you, his characterization of him isn't wrong. I honestly kinda tended to avoid him. I was friends with his older brother's wife, and his younger brother was an absolute gentleman, but he was not a very nice man. He was the sort of person that the court exams were supposed to keep out in theory. Didn't work, of course. He studied just as well as brothers, or so Sangmin told me. Songjun. Here, You want to see the usual sort of behavior that you'd get from Smith Song Q? I've added another entry, this one by the Kim Sung. Let's see it. Where was it? I don't know which one it is. Whatever, I'm just gonna finish it off and then I'll go back. Smith family tree. Sungjin Sungbin. Kyungsung. Okay, so here's what the family tree is supposed to look like. None of that weird cluttered mess that Hyuna did. But here's a few notes of my own, some of the women you might actually care about. Smith Sung-hee, older sister of the main Smith ranch, married into Hwang family in 285. Widowed in 314, taken in by younger Hwang brother in 317. No sons. Also Jin, married Smith Song-min in 310. No sons or daughters of her own. Jangmi, courtesan, purchased by and married Smith Song-min in 313. No sons. Hana, courtesan, entertained Smith Song-min. No sons or daughters. Man, that guy was a shit. Smith Min-hee, Smith Sung-min's daughter by the courtesan Jangmi, promised to Park family, but not formally married. Well, I think that speaks for itself, doesn't it? That's what a genealogy is supposed to look like. Hope that's more helpful. It did its job. Whoa. Alright, this is the last one. What's this? I don't know. Yeah, okay. Legendary temper, a clerk. Now I've been a clerk for a while, and it's not as if I haven't heard all the stories about High Magistrate Smith Song-min and his legendary temper, but I always figured they were an exaggeration. Especially after I met him for the first time. The man seemed like an absolute model of gentleman, and rather calm and unemotional. I'm not criticizing him, I just never imagined that man getting angry. It was while an official was presenting the facts of a murder case to him, a drunken brawl between peasants gone horribly wrong. It all seemed satisfactory enough. A dozen men had seen it. There wasn't really any doubt about it. So far, so good. Very well, the High Magistrate said. Let me read the confession then, before I pass a sentence. And the official didn't have one, which is reasonable enough. A lot of times, they can't get it out of them, and I've never seen a magistrate who is really all too concerned about those little details. Excuse me? You don't have a confession? He said, and his mood soured right there. Why are you wasting my time then? He looked at the accused, who had been kowtowing silently up until that point. Do you even admit to killing him? The murderer seemed confused, and it took him a minute to realize he was being addressed. Furthermore, when he did figure it out, he simply kept nubbling, "Not my fault. Wasn't my fault," and the such. The High Magistrate was furious. What is wrong with you? What is this man doing in front of me in a state like that? He doesn't admit to doing it. What do you expect me to do? He demanded. After some silence from the official, he continued. It wasn't a rhetorical question. Please, enlighten me. What do you expect me to do here? To punish him? The official finally offered, weakly, as confused about the matter as I was. Punish him? This is what sent him completely off the edge. He stood up, shouting, We are not given the responsibility of punishment. What are we, barbarians looking for vengeance? The point of justice is to teach immoral men like him the error of their ways, he lectured, shouting at the top of his lungs. And how do you expect to do that with a man who won't even admit his own actions? Does this man look like he's ready to learn? Do you seriously believe that? Are you simple? The official looked as though he was about to argue, but then thought against it. Smart move. The High Magistrate continued, more calmly. Now stop wasting my time and get him out of my office. Come back when you have a confession and a clue as to what your job actually entails. And with that, he left, leaving the official speechless, and leaving me realizing that perhaps a legendary temper and being a model gentleman weren't quite so mutually exclusive as I had thought. What's up, Mute? See? It wasn't always that bad. He was an embarrassment and far from a pinnacle of virtue. I didn't think that highly of him, but at the end of the day, it was about politics, not about his character. Word. Word. Alright, we're gonna move on to the next block tomorrow. See you guys then. Bye.